Humans were nothing to them but insignificant, primitive savages. But they were about to learn just how wrong they were, in the most brutal way possible. Gabriel Murphy squinted at the blinking light on his ship's comm panel. A distress signal, but not one he recognized. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. Another day, another crisis in the far reaches of space. But something about this signal felt different. "Sir, I'm not familiar with this frequency," his comm officer reported, her brow furrowed. "It's coming from a previously unexplored sector." Gabriel's gut told him this wasn't just another routine rescue. "Set a course," he ordered. "Let's check it out." As their ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, the crew fell silent, taking in the sight before them. Ruins, miles and miles of crumbling structures, the remnants of a once great civilization. "Who were they?" whispered the navigator, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Gabriel stood, his jaw set. "Gear up, we're going in." The ruins told a chilling story. Scorch marks from energy weapons, shattered buildings and bodies. So many bodies. "Sir," called out a crewman, his voice shaking. "I found something. A message carved into this wall. It's not in any language our translator recognizes." Gabriel moved to inspect the strange markings, a sense of unease growing in his chest. Whatever had happened here, it wasn't just a war. It was annihilation. Suddenly, a figure burst from the shadows, a crackling energy weapon aimed at Gabriel's head. "You!" the alien hissed, his eyes wild with rage and fear. "Why have you come back? To finish what you started?" Gabriel raised his hands slowly, his heart pounding. "We're not who you think we are. We're explorers, from a planet called Earth. We received your distress signal." The alien, who introduced himself as Talon, lowered his weapon reluctantly. His face was a mask of grief and despair. "You're too late," he said bitterly. "The Zorgans attacked without warning, slaughtered my people, the Orions. We fought, but they were too strong, too advanced." Talon told a horrifying tale of conquest and genocide, of a ruthless enemy that sought to enslave or destroy all in their path. But there was a glimmer of hope. "Before the end, our scientists were close to a breakthrough," Talon revealed. "An energy source, a propulsion system that could have turned the tide. But now, the plans are lost, buried somewhere in the ruins of our cities." Gabriel's mind raced. If the Zorgans found this technology first, they would be unstoppable. Earth, the galaxy, everything would be at risk. He made a decision. "We'll help you find it," he declared. "We can't let this fall into the wrong hands." Talon looked at him, surprised and wary. "You would risk your lives for a stranger? For a lost cause?" Gabriel met his gaze unflinchingly. "If we don't, who will?" As Human and Orion clasped hands in uneasy alliance, a shadow fell over them. Zorgon ships, descending from the sky like birds of prey. The race was on. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and against all odds, the only hope rested in the hands of a few brave humans, standing tall amongst the ruins of a fallen civilization. They came looking for a distress signal, but what they found was a fight for survival, not just for themselves, but for all of existence. The Zorgans thought they could conquer the stars unopposed, that no one could stand against their might. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. As the Zorgan scout ships descended like a swarm of locusts, Gabriel, Talon, and the human crew scrambled for cover in the crumbling ruins. Dust and debris rained down around them as energy blasts tore into the ancient stone. "This way!" Talon shouted over the chaos, gesturing urgently towards a hidden entrance. They plunged into the darkness, the sounds of the Zorgan assault echoing behind them. The tunnel opened into a vast underground complex, the walls lined with glowing Orion technology. Consoles blinked and hummed, casting an eerie light across the faces of the awestruck human crew. Talon led them swiftly through the winding corridors, his steps sure and purposeful. At last, they emerged into a cavernous command center, screens flickering with data and schematics. "The mainframe," Talon said, his fingers flying across the controls. "If the plans still exist, this is where we'll find them." Gabriel watched tensely as Talon worked, the weight of their mission bearing down on him. The fate of not just his crew but the entire galaxy rested on the secrets hidden within these alien databases. Suddenly, Talon let out a triumphant shout. "I've got it! The energy source plans. They're in the archives of Zelo City to the north." Gabriel leaned in, studying the map intently. "All right, here's the plan. Talon and I will lead a strike team to infiltrate the city and retrieve the plans. The rest of you fortify this bunker. We're going to have Zorgon ground troops on our doorstep before long." Talon frowned, shaking his head. "No, we should all go. We stand a better chance together." Gabriel fixed him with a hard stare. "And if we fail? If the Zorgons capture us all? This bunker may be the last line of defense. We need it held." The two men locked eyes, the tension between them crackling like electricity. "Fine," Talon relented at last. "We'll do it your way. But if anything happens to my people—" "It won't," Gabriel promised. "We'll get those plans and be back before the Zorgons know what hit them." As the strike team slipped away into the night, the remaining crew members set to work, barricading entrances and priming weapon systems. The air hung heavy with anticipation, the calm before the inevitable storm. Miles away, Gabriel, Talon, and their hand-picked squad navigated the treacherous ruins, darting from shadow to shadow. In the distance, the spires of Zelo City loomed, a ghostly silhouette against the starlit sky. Suddenly a cry rang out. "Zorgon Patrol, incoming!" Energy blasts sizzled past them as they dove for cover, the hunt began. Talon barked directions, leading them through a dizzying maze of rubble and debris. Gabriel and his team returned fire, their weapons woefully outmatched. It was a high-speed dance of death, a desperate bid for survival. Talon's knowledge of the terrain was all that kept them one step ahead, swerving and vaulting through the twisted wreckage. At last, the archives came into view, a towering structure miraculously untouched by the devastation. They charged inside, the Zorgon pursuers hot on their heels. And there, in the heart of the archives, they found him. Zaxxon, the traitorous Orion scientist, flanked by a cohort of mercenaries. "Well, well," Zaxxon sneered. "The mighty humans come to save the day. You're too late. The Zorgons are already on their way. All I have to do is stall you here." "You would betray your own people?" Talon snarled, his weapon trained on Zaxxon's heart. "My people are dead," Zaxxon spat. "I'm just ensuring I end up on the winning side." The room erupted into a maelstrom of blaster fire, red and blue bolts crisscrossing in a deadly web. Gabriel and Talon fought back to back, human ingenuity and Orion skill forged into a single unstoppable force. But Zaxxon's forces were dug in deep, and time was running out. In a flash of inspiration, Gabriel spied a weakness in the archive's structure. A well-placed explosive could bring the whole section down, burying Zaxxon and his goons. It was a risky gambit, but they were out of options. With a nod to Talon, Gabriel primed the charge and let it fly. The blast was deafening, a shockwave that hurled them off their feet. When the dust cleared, the way forward stood open, and Zaxxon was nowhere to be seen. They snatched up the plans and ran, the sounds of Zorgon reinforcements echoing behind them. But as they neared the bunker, their hearts sank. The complex was overrun, the defenders pushed to the brink. Gabriel and Talon plunged into the fray, rallying the beleaguered survivors. With the Orion technology they'd acquired, they stood a fighting chance. The battle raged through the twisting corridors, a desperate struggle for every inch. In the end, it was the Zorgons who broke, retreating into the night. But the victory was short-lived. This was only the beginning, a single skirmish in a much larger war. As the smoke cleared, Gabriel and Talon stood amongst the weary survivors, the weight of the future heavy on their shoulders. The Zorgon threat was greater than they'd ever imagined. To stand against it would require more than just human courage or Orion pride. It would take an alliance unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, bound together by a common cause: survival. The plans had to reach human space, the energy source replicated and mass-produced. Only then could they hope to stand against the coming storm. The battle for the ruins was over, but the fight for the galaxy's soul had only just begun. Gabriel and Talon stood in the command center, the adrenaline from their narrow escape still coursing through their veins. The air hung heavy with the acrid smell of smoke and ozone from the recent battle. "We need to move fast," Gabriel said, his voice tight with urgency. "The Zorgons won't stay licking their wounds for long." Talon nodded, his alien features set in iron will. "You're right. We must split up. I'll gather the survivors and seek aid from other worlds the Zorgons have conquered. There are many who would join our cause if given hope." "Agreed. My crew and I will take these plans back to Earth. Our scientists need to start work on this technology immediately." The two clasped arms, a gesture of solidarity between species. "Good luck, my friend," Talon said. "May the stars guide your path." As Talon led his people away, Gabriel turned to his crew. "Let's move, people. We've got a long journey ahead and every second counts." The human ship tore through space, pushing its engines to the limit. Gabriel pored over the Orion plans, his mind racing with the possibilities they held. Upon reaching Earth, Gabriel wasted no time. He marched into United Earth Forces headquarters, the precious data clutched in his hand. "Admiral," he said, saluting sharply, "we've got something that could change everything." The next weeks were a blur of activity. Earth's top minds worked tirelessly, reverse engineering the alien technology. Gabriel watched as the first prototype took shape, a sleek device humming with untold power. Then came the alarm. Long-range sensors blared to life, displaying a massive fleet entering the solar system. Gabriel's blood ran cold as he recognized the Zorgon ships. "They're here," he muttered, "and they brought an army." The Zorgon fleet descended upon Earth like a swarm of locusts. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, searing through cities and military installations alike. The ground shook with each impact, the sky filled with smoke and fire. Gabriel stood on the bridge of humanity's newest ship, powered by the Orion technology. His hand gripped the command console as he watched Earth's defenses crumble. "All hands, battle stations," he barked. "We're going in?" The ship streaked towards the Zorgon armada, its Orion-powered engines giving it unprecedented speed and maneuverability. Gabriel's strike team executed a daring series of maneuvers, catching the enemy flagship off guard. "Now!" Gabriel shouted. "Hit them with everything we've got!" The human ship unleashed a barrage of energy weapons, tearing through the Zorgon flagship's shields without difficulty. But as the enemy vessel listed in space, Gabriel's tactical display lit up with dozens of hostile signatures closing in. "We're surrounded," his XO reported, voice tight with tension. Gabriel gritted his teeth, preparing for what seemed like certain doom. Then, a new voice crackled over the comm. "Need a hand, old friend?" A massive fleet materialized from hyperspace, ships of all shapes and sizes united under one banner. At their head was Talon's vessel. "Talon!" Gabriel exclaimed. "You made it!" "Did you think I'd miss the party?" Talon replied. "Now let's show these Zorgon bastards what happens when you mess with our worlds." What followed was a battle for the ages. Human and alien ships danced through space, their movements orchestrated by Gabriel and Talon's brilliant tactics. The Orion energy source gave them an edge, allowing for maneuvers that left the Zorgons reeling. But Supreme Commander Zartok wasn't finished. His doomsday weapon charged, aimed squarely at Earth. "No!" Gabriel yelled. He pushed his ship to its limits, positioning it directly in the weapon's path. "Divert all power to shields." The blast hit with unimaginable force. For a moment, it seemed like Gabriel's ship would be vaporized. But the Orion technology held, containing the destructive energy in a swirling vortex of light. As the glow faded, Gabriel saw Zartok's fleet in disarray. Ships were breaking formation, fleeing or surrendering en masse. "This isn't over," Zartok's voice snarled over an open channel, but his retreating fleet said otherwise. In the days that followed, Earth became a hub of intergalactic cooperation. The Orion energy source was shared freely, powering a new era of exploration and advancement. Gabriel and Talon stood together, watching ships from a dozen worlds dock at Earth's new spaceport. "You know," Gabriel said, "when I answered that distress call, I never imagined it would lead to this." Talon nodded, his alien features set in what Gabriel had come to recognize as a smile. "The universe works in mysterious ways, my friend, but I, for one, am glad it brought us together." As they looked out at the stars, both knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter for all their peoples. The Zorgon fleet retreated into the inky depths of space, leaving Earth's defenders breathless but victorious. Gabriel Murphy stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the last enemy signatures fade from the tactical display. "We did it," he breathed, turning to Talon. "But this is just the beginning." Over the next months, Earth became a hive of activity. Gabriel and Talon worked tirelessly, coordinating with leaders from a dozen worlds to establish a defensive perimeter around the planet. Captured Zorgon vessels were towed into orbit, their alien tech stripped and studied. On Orios, Talon's homeworld, a sprawling research complex took shape. Scientists from across the galaxy poured in, eager to unlock the secrets of the Orion energy source. Gabriel walked through crowded labs, marveling at the sight of humans working alongside beings of every shape and color imaginable. "Look at this," a blue-skinned Andorian scientist exclaimed, gesturing to a pulsing orb of energy. "We've increased power output by 300% just this week." Similar breakthroughs came daily. New ship designs, weapons systems, even revolutionary medical treatments, all powered by Orion tech. The alliance grew stronger by the day. But as Gabriel sat in on yet another strategy meeting, he sensed the growing divide among the gathered leaders. "We must strike now." General Kraz of the Taurian Empire thumped his hand on the table, while the Zorgons licked their wounds. "And risk them unleashing their doomsday weapons?" Ambassador Lyra of the Centauri countered. "We should focus on strengthening our defenses." The arguments grew heated, voices rising. Gabriel exchanged a worried glance with Talon. Then came the fateful day of the summit on Orios. Gabriel stood at the podium addressing the assembled dignitaries when alarms blared. "Security breach in Research Sector 7, a voice crackled over the comms. Gabriel sprinted through the halls, his team at his heels. They burst into the central plaza to find chaos. Civilians screamed and scattered as energy bolts crisscrossed the air. A group of heavily armed militants had seized control of a research facility. "Take them down," Gabriel ordered, diving behind a pillar as return fire peppered his position. The battle raged through the streets of the Orion city. Gabriel's team moved with practiced precision, but the militants fought with desperate ferocity. A scream cut through the din. Gabriel turned to see Talon shielding a group of civilians, taking a blast meant for them. The Orion crumpled to the ground. "No!" Gabriel roared, redoubling his efforts. Finally, they fought their way to the main reactor chamber. Gabriel entered alone, weapon drawn. "That's far enough!" a cold voice rang out. Gabriel found himself staring down the barrel of a gun held by Zaldor, the militant leader. "You don't understand what's at stake," Zaldor snarled. "The Zorgons will destroy us all if we don't strike first." "And how many innocents die in the crossfire?" Gabriel countered, inching forward. Zaldor's finger tightened on the trigger. "A necessary sacrifice." Suddenly a shot rang out. Zaldor cried out in pain, his weapon clattering to the floor. Gabriel tackled him, securing the treacherous leader. He looked up to see Talon leaning heavily against the doorway, smoking pistol in hand. "Couldn't let you have all the glory," Talon gasped before collapsing. In the aftermath, the Alliance leaders gathered in solemn conclave. The depth of their division had been laid bare, and they knew change was needed. "We need a single voice," the Arcturian Chancellor intoned. "A leader we can all trust." All eyes turned to Gabriel. Days later, in a room heavy with incense and history, Talon lay on a ceremonial bier. His breathing was labored, but his eyes shone with pride as he placed an ancient medallion around Gabriel's neck. "Lead them well," Talon whispered. "Unite us as one." Gabriel stood, the weight of galaxies on his shoulders. He faced the assembled leaders, his voice ringing out clear and strong. "We stand at a crossroads," he began. "Divided, we fall. United, we prevail. I vow to forge an alliance that will weather any storm, powered by Orion technology and the unbreakable bonds between our peoples." As Gabriel spoke, tactical displays lit up. Zorgan fleets were massing at the edge of known space. The final battle loomed. The tactical display flickered to life, bathing Gabriel's face in an eerie blue glow. He leaned forward, studying the intricate web of red dots representing the Zorgon fleet. His eyes narrowed as he traced their trajectory. "They're heading for the Caraxian Nebula," he murmured, just as our scout intel suggested. Captain Lyra, his Centauri second-in-command, nodded. "The radiation will blind their sensors. It's the perfect place for an ambush." Gabriel's fingers danced across the console, repositioning the Allied fleet. "Let's give Zartok a welcome he won't forget." The Alliance ships glided silently through the nebula's swirling gases, their hulls crackling with static. Gabriel felt the tension coiling in his gut as Zartok's flagship entered the kill zone. "Now!" he barked. The minefield erupted in a dazzling display of destructive power. Orion fusion warheads detonated in rapid succession, their energy amplified by the nebula's unique properties. Zartok's ship bucked and writhed under the onslaught, its shields failing in a cascade of sparks. Gabriel allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction, but it was short-lived. A new energy signature bloomed on his sensors, dwarfing anything he'd seen before. Zartok's voice, filled with maniacal glee, echoed through the comm channels. "Behold, Gabriel Murphy, the extinction sphere. Your precious alliance will be reduced to cosmic dust." Gabriel's blood ran cold as he processed the readings. This weapon could obliterate entire star systems. He opened a channel to the Allied fleet. "All ships, concentrate fire on that sphere. We need to overload its containment field." Energy beams lanced out from 100 Allied vessels, converging on the Zorgon superweapon. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed to be working. Then Zartok's laughter cut through the chaos. "Too late, human, but perhaps you'd like to say goodbye to an old friend first?" The view screen flickered, revealing Talon bound and bloodied on the Zorgon bridge. Gabriel's heart sank. "You have a choice, Gabriel," Zartok sneered. "Surrender now, or watch as I obliterate everything you fought for." Gabriel's mind raced, weighing impossible options. The lives of billions hung in the balance, yet he couldn't bring himself to abandon Talon. "Your doctrine of strength through culling the weak is a perversion, Zartok," Gabriel said, buying time. "True strength comes from unity, from embracing our differences and working together." Zartok scoffed. "Pretty words from a doomed species." Gabriel's hand hovered over the command to fire. He looked at Talon's battered face on the screen, saw the silent nod of understanding pass between them. "All ships, prepare for extraction maneuver Omega," Gabriel ordered, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his chest. "We're going in." The Allied fleet surged forward, weathering a storm of Zorgon fire. Gabriel's shuttle rocketed towards Zartok's failing flagship, dodging and weaving through the chaos. A blinding flash lit up space as Talon, in a final act of heroism, redirected a lethal antimatter blast. Gabriel watched in horror as his friend was consumed by the energy. Talon's last words crackled through the comm. "Humanity has taught us there is no greater strength than unity." Grief threatened to overwhelm Gabriel, but he forced it down. There would be time to mourn later. Now they had to escape. The extinction sphere's containment field collapsed in a cataclysmic explosion. The shockwave overtook Zartok's forces, vaporizing them in an instant. Gabriel's fleet rode the edge of the blast, their Orion-powered engines straining to outrun oblivion. As the energy dissipated, an eerie calm settled over the battlefield. Gabriel stood on the bridge of his ship, surrounded by the leaders of a dozen alien races. They looked to him now, not as a primitive outsider, but as the one who had led them to victory. "We've won," Gabriel said softly, "but at a terrible cost. Talon's sacrifice.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.